Okay, so we gifted some 25mm pipe, which we will use to run a water line for the garden. I will walk you guys through because there's the connection is halfway up the driveway, which we will bring down. Then we're going to run it across the fence, or between these fences. You'll see there's a bit of a gap, which they obviously, when they built the fence, the barbed wire was to keep the cattle out, and obviously the gap is so that they can't eat what was in the garden. So we'll put the pipe along here, just burying it between 20 and 30 mils deep, up until the corner post there. And then, because I was looking at putting my greenhouse on the corner there, then we'll take it a T-piece off to the garden, and then from there we'll do all our lines in the garden. So I don't know if it'll be enough, but we'll get it unrolled and then we can have a look. And then the fence of the garden is finished, and yeah, you know you're a garden geek when you get a trailer load of manure and you are super stoked. So look how awesome this manure looks. It's a bit damp, but yeah, this was taken out of a crawl from one of the farmers. I think it was the sheep or cattle crawl that it was dug out of, and it's been maturing for quite a while, so it's ready to use, and super excited to put that in the garden. So yeah, garden fence is done. Super stoked. Obviously I say done, but we still need to put something along the bottom for the porcupines, but those are already arranged, so we just need to bring them and put them in. But yeah, fencing is finally done, so super excited about that. It took a bit longer than I expected, but it's done. So all the way around is done, and the guys that I eventually got to finish the job, the guys that started didn't pan out or didn't arrive again, so I ended up having to find other guys. And as I say, they've done a very nice job. Just go around the fence here to where the drainage part is, so that I can show you what we've done there. So as I say, all along we're going to have to I left a space on purpose so that the wire is not in the ground, because then it rots a lot faster because it gets wet. So we had this drainage ditch to make sure this garden doesn't get boggy, which they dug out very nicely for me. And then, as I say, they've finished it off very nicely here, so for the porcupines. And then as I say, bottom piece of the fence we're going to sort out, clean all of this up, get that taken away. And a piece of bed that I had started, I used the rotavator to start that piece. The rotavator is basically a machine that helps to dig up the soil. So where we'd worked it obviously hardened up quite a lot after the rain where they leveled, so I used a rotavator initially. It's not something we're going to do all the time, because I want to look at doing no-till, which is where you do not dig up the earth every time you plant something. And then I laid out these little beds like this, and then I was chatting to my dad. He actually brought the soil for me, and he saw my space that I've got down next to the side, and he suggested I make this corner piece a bit wider, so that if I end up getting like a little garden tractor with a trailer or something like that, that I can actually make the turn. That side there is fine for the turn, but I must make this bigger, otherwise I'm not going to get a turn in. So this side I am going to redo and remeasure out the beds. Fortunately I got that advice before I started putting the soil on, so it's a lot easier to do it now. The idea, obviously, with the lines, you're going to see, I mean, I've moved this here, but you've got a wide section which is 90 centimeters wide, which is as wide as the rotavator, and then you've got a 50 centimeter wide section, which is basically the pathway. So if you look at the droppers I've put in here, as I say, this wide section here is 90, which is your bed width. The reason for being 90 centimeters is so that it's wide enough to get stuff planted, but not so wide that you can't reach over to the other side of the bed to pull something out. So that was why I've made them 90 centimeters. And as I say, also because if I do need to rotivate for some reason, again in the future, I will be able to get a rotavator down, just down that lane, so to say, without having to disturb the small walkway. So the small walkways, I want to get some weed fabric, 50 centimeter wide weed fabric, hence the 50 centimeter wide distance for that, which then I will put as the walkways in the actual garden. I don't want to put, I was left some gravel for when they put the poles in. I don't want to put the gravel in this bed, because if I do decide to change something, it's a lot easier to roll up the weed mat and change it than it is trying to get gravel out of the garden area and to rehabilitate that. So the reasoning behind using a weed cloth to try and control weeds. There's still quite a bit of grass that I have to get out of here, but I will be, once I've remeasured this, I'm going to start putting soil in. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the trailer, which is now standing there, into the garden area, but I'm going to get that offloaded and we'll lay that in the actual bed area here, on each bed area, not on the walk areas, because there's no point in having nice beautiful compost in the walkways where it's not going to be used. So yeah, that's the update on the garden so far. As I say, with fence being 95% done, I'll arrange to get the other panels. So these are the panels I've got. So it's from a vibratite fence, which I will be laying along the bottom there. I want to dig them in slightly, just so that the porcupines can't dig underneath them, because they do normally dig a bit, so just to stop that from happening. And then you'll see this area here, I also just need to do a bit more work here because the water's damming here, so I need to open or lower it a bit there. And then I've got a bit of a natural drainage section to there, which also needs to be filled up a bit, but I want to use this as another natural drain out of the garden, so that to stop the water from standing in the garden. So that I'll still fill up because there's quite a big gap there, which obviously is not going to keep anything out at this stage except cows, this fence. But yeah, looking good, looking good. Get my gate closed. For now I'm going to leave this area as a compost area, because I'm not going to be able to get this whole garden area sorted out this season. So the idea behind just doing my little section there is I can fit 5 beds in. I will get those planted with the run-of-the-mill stuff like carrots, beetroot, well, your root vegetables. I've got some corn that I want to plant, popcorn corn, and yeah, I've just got to double check now. Obviously the season is a bit late, so I need to see what else can still be planted. I've got quite a bit in seed trays that can be planted out, tomatoes and such, so we'll look at those. And then as I get different things, like when we get to garlic, then I'll do the section for garlic and extend the garden as the stuff becomes available or the season is correct to do that. So, and we'll eventually get down here to the end of the compost heap, but and then I will relocate the compost heap somewhere else and outside the garden area, but it'll still be close enough so that we can get everything onto the beds close by, or to throw garden waste onto the compost heap. I've discovered I'm going to be doing quite a lot more walking here than I would because it's a much larger space, but in general I'm super stoked, and I think it's going to be a great adventure. So let's go. So we used a wheelbarrow just to offload the trailer, and then started making the garden beds. We only managed to get 2 garden beds made. The trailer load of compost didn't go very far, so we'll have to organize some more. Yeah, so just a quick, we started the garden beds. Rain has come down a bit, so we've just stopped until the code goes over. Yeah, we cardboard down to help suppress the weeds, and then we're putting the compost on top, into which we will then plant what we need to plant. Just a quick note on the compost, that depending how long it's been allowed to stand and brew, you'll see I'm planting straight into the compost, but it did not have a sort of, it smelled like soil and stuff like that, which is why I planted straight into it. But you do need to be careful that you don't burn your plants and seedlings if it hasn't brewed for long enough. And just like that, the storm is over, and then we can carry on putting stuff on the garden. Yeah, did quite a damage to the trailer. That's all that's left. And that's only done 2 beds. We're going to need a lot of manure or compost. So I've just thrown the last of the compost on here. So we haven't quite finished 2 beds, but I have got a couple of bags that, and I also just need more cardboard to fill up here. So I'll do that tomorrow, and then I can start planting in these 2 beds and get that garden started, and then I'll then get some more compost and work on the other beds and getting those planted. So yeah, the garden is over away, and I am super stoked. And that little shower of rain was just enough to get everything wet, but that's good. And then the plum tree is, the plums are starting to ripen. I don't know if you can see them all, but they are stacks and stacks of plums. So we are going to have an absolute feast. Look at them. They're all starting to turn rosy. It's the next day, and I managed to find some cardboard and just topped up the end of that bed to make the beds complete. And then we started planting out all that I needed to plant out with the cabbages and such. So got the first planting in, got some cabbages here. I've got 3 different types of cabbages. So these are the normal cabbages. They didn't tell me what variety it was on the seed. Then I've got red cabbage. Not a lot of those, but there are a couple there. And then these are Brussels sprouts. A couple of Brussels sprouts that we started at the end of the bed. Then over here you're going to see that I've made holes for planting my popcorn. This is the glass gem popcorn. So we'll put that in first because it's slightly taller than the other varieties. Then next up here I've got strawberry popcorn. And then in the third section I've just got butterfly popcorn. So I've just taken some popcorn there to sow in. Then over here we've got Danish ballhead cabbages, and then we've got some kale. So those are the Danish ballheads. And then on the end of the bed here we've got kale that we've put in. So everything's looking a little sad, but it'll pick up once we've given it a good watering. Okay, so we had a shower of rain, which wasn't enough to wet everything in, although it is wanting to rain again. So I've just given it a good watering in with the hose. So cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, spinach. I've got my popcorn in. So let's see how these babies grow. I laid the pallets out here of getting a bee in my bonnet and about what to do with the garden. So I'll keep thinking on that. Then here I managed to get some more compost organized. So yeah, big smiles, more compost, and we've got 2 bucky loads and a trailer load. So this is getting the 2 bucky loads offloaded. As you can see, it's quite wet. Okay, so we got the 2 bucky loads of soil, compost that we got offloaded, and then we've also got the trailer that still needs to be offloaded. But yeah, just a quick update of where we are. Our plum tree, the plums are ripening super fast, and as I say, this tree is pretty laden. You just take a walk underneath it, you can see how many plums there are, and as I say, they're ripening very quickly. Okay, so the beds that I've planted so far, these 2 beds I planted with cardboard underneath. The idea behind that is obviously for the weeds, so to help suppress weeds, and then the compost on top of it, and as it gets watered it'll break down and the roots of the plants will go through that. I had thoughts of doing that for all my garden beds, but having thought about it a little bit more, I've decided I probably won't do that. This soil is very sandy, which is very good for potatoes and carrots and your root vegetables. So this bed here, I put in a bit of spinach. So what I did was I just put compost on top. So I think for the rest of that bed, I'm going to do the same thing as just put compost on top, or put a bit of compost on. I'm going to take the rotavator and go over it again, and then just put a thin layer of compost on top of that again before I plant anything in there. And then as I do my other beds, I have tried a root start for potatoes, which seemed to work very well. I tried that at my mom's house, so I'd quite like to do that, although a lot of the potatoes I ended up planting there because the season started going. I have got a couple of sweet potatoes. I'll just see if I end up putting them in this garden or not. So we'll see. Trying different gardening or bed methods, I think it'll be a good thing to test and see what actually works here. And as I say, the root starts is definitely something I want to try. You'll see on these garden beds I've just taken, I dug around in the compost heap that they were making with some leaves, just to put mulch a bit on top, just to try and help with the water retention. As I say, this definitely will not help with weeds, but yeah, if it can help water retention a little bit, it'll be great. So it's a very hot day today, as I say, so I just came make sure I could water everything, seeing as it hasn't been planted out for that long, and make sure that it's been watered, and then just check on everything and see what else I can plant out in the meantime. As I say, you can see the beautiful blue skies. As I say, it's a beautiful summer's day, and I'm definitely enjoying the warmer weather. I'm not a huge fan of winter, although we do get quite a few storms. I'm going to just turn around here. Not sure if you can see the clouds. Quite often we get clouds building in the afternoon. The wind quite often picks up here, especially in the garden area. In the afternoons it picks up quite a bit. Let me just turn around because the sun's not so great that side. The wind picks up a lot. I'm not going to actually say why. I'd have to do a little bit more research as to, but I'm assuming it's got to do with the storms that build in the afternoon. We get half-hour thunderstorms here, which are really nice because it gives the garden a shower without having to physically always water. So that's always a positive. But yeah, lots of new things we're learning. So something I've been talking about in the garden, I was just going to do garden beds from one side of the garden to the other, and then I thought it might be quite nice. I do want to do some raised beds in the garden, so I thought it might be nice if I actually in the middle of the garden do a section that sort of cuts the garden in half, and do raised beds that way in order to break up the garden and also get that in. So I have these pallets that I got, plastic pallets that I got, and then I've got some wooden crates edges that fit exactly on these. So I'll probably fit another one in there. I've got 4 down here, so 5, maybe 6, depending how many I end up putting into the line, how far apart they are, because I'd quite like to put do a trellis or walkways that you can walk underneath and grow cucumbers over. I've seen quite a few people do that, and I really like the idea. So I'm looking at doing that here, and as I say, I'll do that in the middle of the garden, and then as I get, not this season, but as I get there, then I'll do this other half of the garden. So the idea is basically to, I'm not sure if I'll get all the way to these, but at least plan my garden halfway up to including these, and to actually start building these raised beds so that I can grow some things in there, because they're quite nice for cucumbers. I've got some cucamelons that are busy growing. They're still a bit small to plant out, but cucamelons, stuff like that I can plant in the raised beds, which I think would be very nice. So let me know what your thoughts are on that, and if you've got any other ideas, please pop them in the comments below. I'd really appreciate the feedback. So just a quick walk through the beds. On this side we've got cabbage, and on this side we've got kale. And this over here is Danish head cabbage, and then this is still normal cabbage. Then we've got some red cabbage over here, and then we've got butterfly popcorn, strawberry popcorn, and glass gem corn planted there. We've got, as I say, the red cabbage here, and then we've got some Brussels sprouts that are planted here. I'm a bit early on my Brussels sprouts, but they are growing nicely, and we'll see what they do. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us and sharing in our journey. We hope you'll give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers for now.